Hi. Okay, so I am making dinner while I am recording because I'm a single mom and I gotta multitask. Um, Lately, that whole idea of authenticity after watching, Aubrey Marcus's polyamory thing, and it's not the polyamory, I've told you, it doesn't bug me, do you? But the part that bugs me just about, it's not even bothers me, it's just, it doesn't serve us. Like, let's be authentic. Let's be our true authentic selves. Because I feel like when we have shame around the things that we do or the things that we've done, or, when we feel like we're going to be judged, or if we're afraid that we're going to be judged, then what happens is we hold back. And on one hand, yeah, that's great, because then you can see the fear that you hold within and you can address that. But on the other hand, some people do not address their fears. Aubrey Marcus clearly being one of them, or someone in that connection being one of them, because why call it radical monogamy, right? But I wish that we could just tell the truth, be honest. Even at school with my students, I'm like, you're not really asking me for my feedback on this project or this poster or whatever it is. What you're really asking is, have I done enough in order to earn this grade? And I did say something to one of my students. I'm like, what you're really asking is this, well, in the case of this particular student, and this is probably my own flaw, because this probably would not go over very well. I'm like, so, you're going to put forth minimal effort, but you're going to ask me if this is going to be an A. And so I pulled out a poster that showed a little bit, significant effort. And I said, now, if you were going to grade this and this, reading the content, what would each one be? And the student's like, oh, and grabs his paper and goes back and works on it. But there's something to being authentic, because I do think that if I can't tell the truth, if I can't say, this looks like you didn't put that much effort in, and, you're turning it in before everybody else, or I don't know. I mean, maybe some kids it doesn't take that long, but you get what I'm saying. So I don't know. I just feel like there's this, it's almost like we're quote unquote nice, but sometimes I think our quote unquote niceness isn't that kind, because it's not true. And some of the, quote unquote niceness is shielding people from lessons that maybe they're here to actually learn. Part of, the demise of my marriage is, and I'm not always trying to talk about this, but this is the most relevant thing in my life right now. The demise of my marriage is that, I showed up authentically, like, hey, this doesn't work for me. And I would be met with, that's mean, that's not nice. Can't you be nice? And at the end of the day, I'm like, how is that not nice? How is reflecting back to somebody something that does not work for you, something that, in your relationship with that person isn't going to work for the long haul? How could that be considered anything less than love? Because if I allowed somebody to continue showing up in a way that doesn't work for me, and we're trying to be in a marriage together, that's kind of a problem. So I don't know. I've been meaning to, make a video about this, just because I do think it's interesting how we play nice, but I'm like, is it really even nice? Is it nice to, tell a student, oh, good job, when actually 9 times out of 10, if they haven't done a good job and they're asking me, they already know. They're just hoping that their, work is enough to get a decent-ish grade, right? So The other thing, this morning I was watching, I was listening to this, it was actually super interesting, this video on this woman who is a sociopath. And, you know, she was describing how, you know, she didn't have feelings or she didn't experience feelings, emotions the same way, in the same form that other people experienced emotions. And, you know, she's like, well, I would emulate and pretend when I was young because I knew that if I didn't do that, I would be, you know, considered bad or punished or something like that. So she kept all of this under wraps. And, you know, she was kind of advocating the same thing that I'm advocating for, is let's just be authentic. Let's just show up as we are. Let's show up as ourselves. And I'm not saying in a rude way. I'm not saying, you know, go out there and intentionally, you know, put yourself into, you know, making comments or, but kind of, I mean, you know, not hurting people, but like, yeah, showing up and mirroring back to people in a way that is authentic, not because you don't care about people, but rather because you actually do care about people. You know, the way I look at my parenting, I'm like, if I wouldn't want my kid doing this outside of the house, why would I accept it inside the house? Because that's not of service to my kid. And likewise with my students. Why would I allow something in a classroom that I wouldn't want to have in a workplace environment? Why would I allow, you know, behaviors to just, I don't know. I often also think like what we allow, what we permit, we're teaching. And so some of these like new, I don't even know what I would call it. Like, I think the fear of or this over concern with hurting people's feelings. And again, I'm not advocating. There's a way to present honestly and authentically, and yet also honoring self first, and of course honoring the other person. But I do think showing up authentically, until we can do that, until we can honestly say, you know, I don't experience emotions the same way other people do. I'm talking about that woman this morning. How are we going to learn anything? All we do when we shame people, and I look back on my marriage, and a lot of the things that my ex-husband would say is, I don't feel like I can tell you these things because I feel like it's going to be upsetting to you. And that part is you don't get to decide that. You have to, you know, you show up authentically. And if the other person doesn't like what you're showing up as, well, then there, you know, might be consequences, or there might be, you know, a mirror shining back to you, something that you don't want to see. But big deal. I mean, at least that way we're not stagnant, you know, we're not just avoiding life. I don't know. I kind of feel like we're getting complacent, and I kind of feel like this whole, you know, let's not hurt each other's feelings. Let's, you know, let's be really careful with what we say. And it's not about intentionally hurting anybody's feelings, but it is about showing up in a way that, that, you know, that honors you. I mean, if you're not able to tell somebody, hey, when you do that, I don't like that, and here's why, you know, if they don't want to receive it, then they could certainly, if they're going to show up authentically, they could say, yeah, I don't really care if you like it or not. And then at least that way I have a clear picture of what I'm getting, and then I can decide if I'm in or if I'm out. I bit my lip this morning, and I am talking funny because of it. What else was I going to say about this? And to that end too, and this is such a good reminder for me, like judging people, I'm really, really, really trying to clear that whole program from my beingness, because I want to be able to show up for my kids and have them feel like they're not being judged by me, right? Like we're all here learning, we're all here expanding and growing. But if we want people to show up authentically, then we better be able to be willing to, you know, obviously address the things that don't work for us, but then also from a place of neutrality versus a place of judgment, or from a place of, you know, you're bad or whatever. Anyway, hope this makes sense.